And transcription looks good. Okay, great. And then what I did last time is let's put it up for let you all have access. And then if anything you said was like, oh, I really don't want that out in the world, I can strip it before we make it public on our YouTube so other people can get exposure to the content. Okay, great. So first off, I'll say I'm Jacob Griscom. I'm our CEO here at R&B Communications, and the company's been in business since like 2001. I took the CEO role 3 years ago and started to pivot us a lot more. It was like an everything for everybody company, and but I liked our charter school clients the best, and I felt like we could do the most meaningful work if we just really got involved in a space instead of every space. And so within all of the apps and modules and workflow automations and websites that we've been building for charter schools, the most interesting endeavor that we're working on right now is it's called our interactive curriculum guide. And the reason I like it so much is that it aligns with my sort of one commandment around what is the highest purpose of education, and that's to limit wasted human potential. And then my thesis about how we get there is that we really have to understand people uniquely on the front end. We need to have a really good matchmaking with them for the learning paths that best support them and their interest and the way that they learn and the amount of support they have around them and that sort of thing. And ultimately it needs to like de-silo between life, education, and work, that these things come more and more together instead of them being three separate domains, that those happen more and more in alignment with each other, so that you're not spending a lot of time over here in one compartment with something that doesn't really apply to what you're interested in, that doesn't really apply to your work opportunities, and so on. So that's a snapshot of me, our organization, and what I'm interested in most with AI and EdTech right now. And so, Aaron, why don't you say a little bit about your role, your organization, and what you're into?
Yeah, IT director for, my name's Aaron Stout, IT director for Connecting Waters Charter Schools. And we are in both the Valley and the Bay Area, and they're in California, and we're just we're kind of reaching out and exploring some different things with AI and EdTech and chatbot on our website built by R&B, and just kind of reaching out and seeing how AI can help our workflow and help make things more efficient when it comes to how information and different things flow through our organization. So
awesome. Thanks, Aaron. Sean, how about you?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sean. I am the Director of Teaching and Learning at CHAMPS. It's a small performing arts charter in the SoCal Valley. Currently, I feel like my teachers are so afraid of AI and how the students want to use it. I'd like to empower them with the tool, using the tool themselves. So it would, not just streamline, but it will help us standardize what is good if we're all kind of using the same tool rather than running from it, because it's not going anywhere, right?
Right.
And how are we going to empower our kids if we ourselves are not empowered? So, yeah.
Well put. Excellent. How about you, Karen?
Hi, I'm Karen Calloway. I'm the principal at Family Partnership Charter School. And along with, we're a K-12 hybrid, blended program. And just like everyone else, we're trying to figure out how to integrate AI into the classroom and into our workforce or our workload somehow. I know a lot of us are using it on the side, but we're not sure to what extent we should be using it. And so we're in the process of updating our school policies, including AI, and what's acceptable, what's not acceptable.
Yeah.
But to do that, and I know I'm not alone. I hear we talk all the time and we're like, yeah, what are we going to do? And like some teachers are, they don't even want to talk about it. Other teachers are like, I use it all the time.
Yeah.
And then I have, but I don't know what they're using it for. And then of course we have students who are trying to use it when they shouldn't be. And,
Right.
So there's all these kind of things that, and some of them just don't know. So we are trying to implement some kind of like curriculum at the beginning of the school year about acceptable use of AI. And, and that means maybe we're choosing a particular AI platform and all this kind of stuff. So we're just trying to start the ground level and embrace it and move forward. And we're to learn along the way, because I know I don't know everything about it for sure. So, and Eamon works with me, so hopefully he's our IT guy. So hopefully he'll give you a little more information too.
Okay, excellent. Perfect. Thank you for the context. That's great to say, like, yeah, you kind of have this rogue element that's affecting people in different ways, but you're approaching it with openness and a desire for awareness, even while some of your teachers are trying to turn away from it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, Eamon, from the IT standpoint there, what do you have to add to that?
Well, yeah, she pretty much hit it head on and aligns with actually what Sean and also with Aaron as far as what AI can do as far as for workflows internally. And, and also just kind of get an idea of what other schools are doing. I mean, trying to figure out what sort of standard is being set.
Yeah.
And just a little more context is as she mentioned, we're a blended home study, so we're spread out about over 100 miles on the Central Coast in 5 locations. So all very similar. Cool.
That point is in our frameworks for today, how that ends up impacting this conversation. So cool. Well, kicking it off for today's topic, where it's about verifying authentic education or authentic learning in the age of AI. And so the first thing I was like, well, let's make sure we're roughly on the same page with how we would even define authentic learning. So I'll present a sort of robust authentic learning definition or exploration here, and then let's add anything that you feel like is missing or you would change. Then we can talk a little bit about the structure, this framework I put together for verification, what that really means. That will kick off with a philosophy and purpose that will kind of guide that. And that's this opening statement that I think is interesting. So we'll get into that. So first, authentic learning is learning that is relevant, transferable, and rooted in real world purpose. It engages the whole person, intellect, emotion, and action, and results in demonstrated understanding that holds up outside artificial academic context. In other words, life. It is characterized by meaningful application rather than rote memorization, learner agency rather than passive absorption, integrated knowledge rather than isolated subjects, real-world relevance rather than abstract exercises only, and observable demonstrations rather than hidden internalization. So authentic learning prepares learners not just to answer test questions, but to navigate uncertainty, contribute value, and evolve over time. It aligns what is learned, why it matters, and how it's shown that they know this. Anything you would add or change to that hearty definition?
I thought it covered quite a bit.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So we're kind of
halfway through. I'm like, should I be writing this down?
Is there
well,
going to
there's
be
a
a
lot.
quiz?
Yeah, exactly. We'll pass this along. So the idea is, if we're using some words, let's make sure that we roughly are on the same page around what we mean by it. So here's kind of my opening statement on this. So we've got a framework today where we'll get into philosophy and purpose, talk about learning contexts and modalities, human interaction and mentorship. Where does that play in? Assessment types, demonstration frameworks, verification methods, the technology and the tooling, and then evidence of growth over time. Those are like broadly the categories I could think of relevant to verification. So the opening statement is that this is a past, present, future framework. So in the past, our education system was designed to meet the needs of the industrial age. The priorities were standardization, obedience, and efficiency, preparing workers for predictable jobs in hierarchical structures. Schools were modeled after factories with bells, rows, and rigid subjects, reinforcing compliance over curiosity. Curriculum was shaped less by human flourishing than by the state's need for order and industry's demand for labor. And today, that system is fraying. At its best, education can still ignite purpose and unlock opportunity, but too often it measures memory over meaning, compliance over capability, and credentialing over competence. Students can game the tests, teachers can burn out, and AI now writes essays better than the average student. The gaps between what we teach and what we need individually and societally grow wider by the day. And the ugly truth is this: we waste staggering amounts of human potential while clinging to outdated structures no longer suited to the world we live in. The future demands something radically different. It demands that we stop compartmentalizing life, work, and learning and begin to integrate them. We must build systems that identify and nurture each person's strengths, align education with real-world opportunities, and cultivate wisdom alongside skill. Our goal is simple but profound: to limit wasted human potential. AI and EdTech are not threats to this mission, they are the accelerants. Tools that can help us verify authentic learning, personalize growth, and rehumanize education. But only if we root our design in purpose and not convenience. The challenge before us is not just to adopt new technologies, it's to adopt a new philosophy of learning. So that is kind of my orientation to where have we come from, where are we at right now, and what's the possibility that we can move into in the future. And that's around the philosophy and purpose. So the kind of prompt for this first one is, why does authentic learning matter in an AI-rich world? And how do we ensure our approach reflects that purpose? So we can kind of go popcorn on each of these. And if we've got more to say on one, that's great. And, examples, whatever, let's kind of see where it goes. But yeah, how do each of you reflect on the overall philosophy and purpose of authentic learning and where that fits in right now?
I think we're all still just kind of absorbing.
I know that's a lot to take in. I could say something if no one has anything to say yet. Oh yeah, okay. I'll be just a starting point here. Authentic learning, we all know that, especially with younger kids, when you're teaching, it has to be hands-on. It has to be, relevant. It has to mean something. And there are, certain skills that they have to achieve in, a certain way in order to build on, the next levels and things like that. So, but I do understand what you're saying about authentic learning kind of deviating once it gets a little more abstract, and maybe in the middle school, high school, I can see that as a way. But I also see how curricula has been changing over time too, to try to embrace, and maybe because we do a lot of online education as well, and maybe you guys do over there too, that I think we have to figure out, it's that it does happen. I mean, I can understand where it's not quite as authentic, you know what I mean? Because a lot of things are, pre-captured in a text or a video or something like that. And so I can see where kids have to, I mean, ultimately there's activities that help them demonstrate some new thinking, right? But I can see where it gets a little less authentic towards the higher grades. So, but there's a lot to cover and requirements for graduation that they have to do. So we've got all that to think about as well. But anyway, I'll let somebody else talk.
I think that part's really key because you're up against these structures that have these demands that may not be in alignment with authentic learning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I also think because we are Common Core, we're using Common Core standards, they are better suited for authentic learning than our previous set of standards here in California. But like you said, when you get to high school, I don't think kids authentically care about how to multiply polynomials because they don't see the need. So it feels very inauthentic. And then we ask our teachers, come on, you guys, you got to put on this dog and pony just so the kids will pay attention. It doesn't always meet their requirement of authenticity. And coming from an older generation, showing my age, we're like, no, you need these things to live and to have a good life after, to have some choices. And they're just like, no, I'm going to be a TikTok star. So you have to deal with what I want and what's authentic to me. I'd like to see the medium, the happy medium, right? If we could just cherry pick standards, I think authenticity might be a lot easier. But working with high schoolers, I see it every day, all day, and it's disheartening sometimes because we have to do standards.
I'm like house sitting and dog sitting now, so it's got me out. Like ball is very serious business for this border collie. So I'm out a lot and I'm strolling and we're throwing the ball, and so I'm thinking, I was like, well, that would be a very interesting different space that would be if the standards were aligned around, say, like health, wealth, and relationship metrics.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
And so you would say, okay, no, this is what we're actually trying to support. Are these health outcomes? Are these wealth outcomes? And these relationship outcomes?
Yeah.
That would be, again, in the direction of de-siloing these things instead of it just being like, oh, education exists here, and these standards may or may not have any connection to your life or to your work and interest.
Yeah, that's true. But I love your definition. Yeah, I like that.
And I think there's definitely a place for an outside, I don't know what to call it, some type of like, third party looking in, speaking of like AI, in determining what a student's weaknesses and strengths are. I'm in a family of teachers. My mom and my grandmother were, my wife is, my daughter-in-law is. And one of the things that I'm hearing is, where, so my wife's a second grade teacher, my daughter-in-law is a third grade teacher. The strengths and weaknesses are coming from whatever the last grade's teacher tells them. It's whatever's in their, in the old days, whatever's in the cume or whatever's in the, whatever. And then you don't, when you have a classroom packed, with 30 kids, you don't have enough time to actually drill down and work with each student to find out what their strengths and weaknesses really are. And so having something, another tool in your tool bag to try to draw that out instead of, the school year goes like that, you're passing them on to the next grade level, and which I know, like our school system, our charter school, that they're with the same education specialist for many years, but they don't get to see them as often because we're a homeschool hybrid, and so there's not that interaction. They're just seeing the work and maybe talking to them through Google Meet or Zoom or whatever. So you know, some of the things that I was thinking of, my wife came home from a field trip today and took second graders out to a nature sanctuary, and they were having thing where they're teaching, they had booths and the kids were learning about butterflies and all that kind of stuff. And my wife came home and she actually said, she's like, I had no idea that so and so and so and so were so into animals, or because they never showed it. It wasn't and now my wife's like, great, I have a matter of days left with them before I'm, you know, move them on to third grade. But she goes, if I would have known that ahead of time, I could have used that to try to teach, you know, when it comes to math and everything, to use that as an example, but it just wasn't there. So those are the kind of things, and there's more discussions going on about that, like looking for the, how do we pick the right curriculum? How do we pick the right, you know, method to get to these students who are learning from TikTok? You know, like that's, you know, they're getting a lot of probably mostly bad education, but they're learning from that, and they're not being exposed to, you know, a lot of different other authentic, you know,
balanced
learning. Yeah. So
yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I was inspired from last session and the Alpha School, is that if the AI is condensing the instruction down to a very effective, way more engaging 2 hours, it frees up the rest of this time where the educators in their life are now pivoting to basically being able to be much more deeply involved in mentorship and life skills workshops, and helping them roll out these really cool projects that are, again, aligned with their interests. And these, like, you know, I was like, all right, these are 11 and 12-year-olds that are building like real businesses and have like real income together already at the age of 12.
Yeah.
That is then reinforcing their excitement around their learning and like that. Cool. So the next element of the framework was the learning context and modalities. And everyone here is either, everyone's online or hybrid or
We
all
are
online.
blended, whatever they call it.
Yeah. Right.
We're
and so
in person, but with an independent study program.
okay, got it.
So kind of both.
Yeah, exactly. Online, hybrid, in person, or asynchronous, right?
Our middle school and high school are asynchronous, but our K-5, we have them about 3.5 days a week in the classroom. So it's kind of similar, but they do homeschool 1 day, 1.5 days out of 8 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the main distinction in my mind, like online, you can still have, you know, environments. And, you know, if you have camera on and you have various other things, there's still ways that you can, like we're doing all right now in different areas, connected. But in person affords some premium opportunities that we don't have online. What are some of the sort of verification adaptations that you find that you're doing at your school based on the mode of how you're delivering education and connecting with students, that might be different than like a, you know, five days a week in class situation?
Well, we ever pretty much right before the pandemic. Well, actually, so we have 5 different centers, but our K-5 centers, they've always been about 3.5 days a week, but we've converted most of our other high school and middle school centers to where kids come in twice a week for core classes. They can still be independent study, but especially in the middle school, the teachers are really directing the learning, and it's not as asynchronous. They can still make things up asynchronously and do a few things, but it's kind of more paced and directed. And then with the high school, we've been slowly having support classes built in as well, because having those kids come in and helping them with their math and helping them in person with their writing has made a difference. And ever since the pandemic, we've really kind of really stepped it up, I would say, and made it, where we're really, and I want to just say with the middle school, because that's where I was teaching all through the pandemic. Never I taught science. I learned a lot about teaching online during that time, which was great. I mean, it was one thing to have meetings, but we use Amplify Science, and I don't know, but it's wonderful. It worked great where the kids could be home doing things on their own platform, but yet I could be teaching the instruction virtually, and it actually worked really well. And so the hard part is getting kids to follow through with stuff more than it. But the lessons themselves were pretty engaging, and the kids wanted to know. They were trying to problem solve to find an answer to a big unit question, and they actually really got into it because it was relevant. So when you're talking about this relevancy, so I did see it really working there. High school, we were using more Edgenuity. It's maybe you guys know about it. It's just an online curriculum, but it does take support from teachers, and that gets to be a little more difficult to keep it authentic, because unless you're just focusing on the writing assignments or some of the more interactive pieces of it, the kids are kind of just doing their own thing. And our math teachers are trying to say, you should be here at this point, so I'm going to teach a lesson on quadrilateral whatever, or so they're trying to figure it out and trying to apply some structure to the asynchronous work. And kids can go ahead or they can get behind. So it's but anyway, it's about what you're saying. Like, I feel like that by making the structure, it's actually supported the students more. So and so it's a little that's why we call it blended, because there's a little bit of in person and there's at home. It's more like a college. Colleges do that. They go to those classes a couple times a week, and then at home you do your homework. So those kind of things.
Like that. Yeah.
When it comes to the humans involved, the educators and whatever else surrounding supporters and mentors, one of the ways I'll sometimes thinking about, like when we're looking at workflow automations for an organization, we'll check in with people's job roles and we'll identify what we call like their A, B, and C work. Where the C work is, it's repetitious, it's maybe low skill. It's the stuff that's most ripe for software to take it over. It's the same communication over and over again. It's the same process over and over again. That a simple workflow automation with the right triggers, the right conditions, and the right notifications or communications could basically take that off that person's plate, which would free them up for more of their B and A work. B work, of course, being stuff that maybe they're the only ones that can do it right now. Something about it doesn't really lend it as easily to an automation. But it's also not like that person's most valuable work. It's not the thing that they do that brings the most value to the organization or their customers or their students. And that would be their A work, right? And so when we look at the roles of teachers and mentors in students' life, like we know, maybe I would describe some of their C work might be, say, like rote grading of homework and test or something like that. Something that's pretty ripe for an AI to be able to do, to potentially take it off their plate. Maybe even some of the content creation and delivery, right? And a lot of that piece. I might put those into that category. But how do you think about that? What are some C work things that AI and various ed tech can help get off of teachers and mentors' plates? And then how would you define, like, what's the A work? What's the work that is the biggest value of that relationship?
I'll go. Some of my C work is unfortunately, monitoring grade books, digital grade books. I would love to have a program that I could just tap into when I need it. It would let me know who has updated their grades, who has not, what grades seem like the outliers very low or very high. Because we have 199 courses that we offer. So that means weekly, I am looking at 199 grade books. It drives me a little nuts. I do it right after lunch because I'm satiated. But that would free myself up, my registrar up, and do the same thing for report cards. And because we do 6 a year, that's insane. It just blows the mind. So that kind of C work I would love to give to anyone, any no takers. Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah, no, that seems very doable for some combination of software and AI to take over. I could even see it then automatically scheduling the conversations that you need to have based on that.
That would be so good. I would love that.
And so if that was all off of your plate, then how would you define more of your your A work that would give you energy and time for?
Yeah. So also part of my job is I observe and mentor teachers. It would free me up so that I can sit with my 2 very, very new teachers and walk through this is what I expect from a lesson plan. This is how we interact with our kids. We can go observe other teachers, just to give them the full band of support. Whereas now I feel like I'm like, ooh, we're going to meet today at 3, but ooh, I only have half hour. So we're going to come back and have your questions ready. I'd like for it to be more authentic and natural in the space, right? Because we're not as hurried as that, but I, as one person, am. And I don't like it. It's not how I choose to work.
That's really good. Yeah, no, that's a great insight overall. I'd say that naturalness sort of needs space to emerge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You don't want that, Sean, the one running from you. You don't want that. Nobody wants that.
Yeah. Yeah, excellent. Any other thoughts on some examples of A work for teachers? What's the most valuable thing they can be doing with their time?
Well, in our school, it's we meet one-on-one with our students as well as having them in the class. The class kind of helps because it can get some of the information out, but then the one-on-one time is when we really work with those individuals. Place where the student is, like if they need extra help in math or extra help in different, we're able to really work with them. It's not enough time because we often find that 1 hour a week or 45 minutes a week or whatever it is not long enough to really get through maybe 5 different classes you're teaching. So you have to kind of really game that a little bit and go through. You have a little system. We try to even help teachers, here's what I would do in my meeting. I would start with this, kind of do this quick. That gives you this much time to work on, lessons or homework or things they're stuck on, or and what to do if they are stuck, how to. But anyway, so I mean, I could see that. To me, that's the most important part because that's when it gets really individualized and personalized. And you can't really, it's not the same for every student, so you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah, it would be interesting to combine that then with the story that Aaron was telling, where the teacher would have some insight earlier on in the relationship around the student. And so I could see AI playing that role as well, better indexing students on the front end through conversation and kind of pulling out these are some real passions and areas of interest. So when you're meeting and connecting with the student, some of the sort of endpoints.
Yeah. Stop. Go to your bed. Go.
It's either a child or a dog.
It is. Well, here she is. Come on. She's been begging me to play.
Oh, yeah.
This is Bella.
Yeah.
Bella's really interested in AI.
Yeah.
This one gave up on the
oh, cutie
that
pie.
after a bit. Yeah, exactly.
She's by my feet, like growling at me because she wants to play.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. This one gave up after a little bit.
Yeah, I was hoping you guys didn't hear the door scratch, because if I didn't
Oh.
close the door to my office, I would have a 100-pound lap dog right here, and I wouldn't be able to see anything.
Love it.
The fourth one was on the assessment types, and I think this one's really interesting in the age of AI because it's becoming clear that you can't just assign an essay remotely and just deliver it, and that there has to be other various forms.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the ones that I noted from, the proximal study of Alpha School was, gosh, these kids every day are getting up and presenting in groups their understanding of things in their projects,
Mm-hmm.
because having to present orally is certainly a bit more AI proof. It's hard. You can use AI to present, to help organize your arguments and maybe even put together a presentation piece. But when it comes to just putting it out there, it's pretty clear to see if somebody knows what they're talking about, or if they're just reading something. Or so for me, that assessment type kind of stands out. But what other modes are we finding and seeing that's addressing, it is learning actually happening, and how integrated is it? My son Ethan, I'm going to be traveling down to Santa Fe for his graduation from St. John's College. It's a classical liberal arts college, and so they don't even have grades. They just have a lot of reading, a lot of writing, a lot of debate, a lot of Socratic seminar, and a Donrag at the end of semester where the high tier academes there are basically talking about him in the third person around, here's what I've observed about him, here's where areas to grow, strong areas, and so on like that. And then for his senior paper, it was 30-page thing, but he didn't know what questions were going to be coming to him. He had to demonstrate, he hadn't considered how some of Aristotle's concepts would fit into this exploration of friendship through the lens of the Confessions of St. Augustine. And so he's like, I was a little thrown by that one, but he had to navigate it, right? And so he couldn't kind of fake or AI his way even remotely around that.
Yeah.
So what are you finding, and how are you adapting? Because that also obviously takes more time, as we were talking about, and more space for that naturalness.
I think some of I'm going to call it fear, because I feel like my teachers don't know or understand. So fear sounds natural to me. Some of the fear has forced my teachers to do everything in class. I'm going to give you an assignment. You're going to start it here. We're going to finish it in this. We have 80-minute blocks. You're going to finish it here and hand it to me as you leave my space. They also have, I believe it's called keystrokes, where they can go onto the computer and see what was typed in last if the assignment is digital. And I'm thinking to myself, this might be insane. Like, is the trust so little, or is it, where is the disconnect, and how do I get in between so that we don't lose that objective and my teacher doesn't burn out?
There may be some personal styles that work in that, but my just visceral response to that was like, immediately I feel like whatever the opposite of inspiration, motivation, like I feel a little kind of dead end. It's giving me some prison vibes, that kind of
You must be a teenager.
Exactly.
They feel it too, but at the same time, I feel like they understand what the teachers are up against. Right? Like, my generation, it was rock and roll. Okay, for you, it's AI. I don't know. And so that's what they're doing. And
like employers have had to use some of these strategies in remote work as well. but yeah, it's just I've resisted it at all cost. I'm like,
Yeah.
here's how I've thought about leadership, and I wonder if it translates into, you know, teaching and learning. Is for one, like I don't want to hire based on that sort of system, and I don't want to basically run somebody through my our business like they're just like a cog that we have to get sort of maximum extraction from.
Yeah.
So instead, I think we lean in towards a lot of responsibility for you know, projects, how things go, and then like we're looking to engender leadership even in small ways around things. So I wonder if in like a class environment or a chunk of lessons, these sort of things where it'd be more like, you know, these formats where you say like, all right, well, this student or group of students is responsible for teaching the rest of the class this element, and then they have to teach this one, or they have to guide this conversation, or they have to, so that I'm not so much just tracking the like upper right quadrant, just what are they doing, but I'm tracking interior. What sort of culture are they creating, and what sort of experience are they having?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, I think that at least from an IT person's point of view, with you know, my own family of teachers and then those that I work with, there is this this fear of you give me one more thing and it's going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Right.
And AI, I mean, every time I bring it up, oh my goodness, it is, you know, I think I'm gonna have a mutiny. And I don't know, Eamon, you know, from the IT point of view, if he's kind of seeing the same thing, but you know, I think we need to integrate, when you talk about assessments, I think we need to assess our staff as much with AI and with the concepts of, and the what's the word, you know what our school stands on academically, and as much as we do the students, because you know I don't think we're seeing that, and not when I'm not just AI, but as we are, you know, bullet training straight into the digital world, which you know, COVID, like, I mean, it threw us all into it, whether we wanted to or not. You know, we had people that didn't even know what Zoom was, and now all of a sudden you're going to be teaching from it, and you're going to be on it 24/7. You know, and so I think they're feeling like they're just coming at, they're finally catching their breath from that, and now we're going to throw AI at them. And but it's like I don't think that I think before we can, you know, hand that new package to our educators, we've got to like bring them along to make sure that, you know, we're all standing on the same, we're all on the same page, and before we start talking about the academic side of it, to make sure that the kids are, because I think they're just what I saw, and this is why I was, you know, bringing up Damon as well. It's like, you know, I saw a lot of missed opportunities for 2 years in our education, at least, you know, from what we were doing during COVID, because like we were having to re-educate our educators, and I think that we need to make sure that we're getting there, and that's why I'm trying to bring up AI, bring up all this, because and what it can do for it. And I really appreciate Jacob and the things that R&B has done with us, because Jacob's always, in a very nice way, introducing it to some of the admin and staff, and it's, you know, it's a easier pill to swallow, you know, coming from that. But I don't know if that if we're looking at it, you know, if we have to take a step back and look at making sure that we're all on that same page before we can really start digging into, you know, where we can pull the students into it. Now, the other hand, students are going to grasp it a lot faster than adults. And the older I get, technology is, you know, I'm feeling it starting to, you know, kind of drift out of my grasp here, because it's going so fast. But we've already run into, you know, and that's the other thing. The only things that we've run into with students and AI have been cheating. And so the staff that's all they think it is. It's just one big, you know, cheat. Or I'm hiring right now, I'm getting AI written introduction letters, and it's like, that doesn't tell me anything. So so
so it's like you've got this AI thing, and the first thing it's presenting is just an initial headaches to address. So I think it's probably some element of, as Sean was speaking to, them having an actual experience of, oh, this made my life easier and I didn't have to learn anything new or whatever. It just took stuff off my plate that it was like busy work. The next one that Aaron's speaking to is, now let's do some level of kind of internal training, exercises, building a little bit of school culture around people's orientation to this, relationship to this, utility of this in their daily lives, and that sort of thing. So that this is not like, so that we're talking about something that everybody actually has some exposure and relationship to now. And then the thing that would come is, then now we explore, how does this impact our education and our approach? That's kind of interesting. So you're this kind of lowest friction, highest benefit, to then more of an orientation, a shared orientation, to then like implementation in your core product, your education. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, that was assessment and demonstration and verification methods. We kind of hit a bunch of those. I thought this, as we covered on like last month, this is funny how not only can you cheat with AI, but you can also then use AI to find cheating.
Right.
Just kind of like a snake eating itself situation here. So,
well, there is something as far as the validity of some of that too, or the integrity of, like, I've gone to some conferences and gone into a few AI workshops, and there was a teacher there who's in another program, had to write papers and things like that, and she decided to run her paper that she did not use AI on, and it said it was 80% AI. So there's a lot of things that may not be true, and so it makes me think, well, I don't want to like nail a kid if I can't really verify if it's true or not. And is AI going to detect AI? I don't know, because you know, some things are out there and they seem very, you know, I don't know everything about AI, how it learns and how, you know, it grows, and its understanding of how to make it so, you know, user friendly, you know, but I do know there's still, I mean, I've seen a couple of essays that kids have written, because that's my job too, if they're plagiarizing or whatever. And it's so blatantly wrong that you can tell that is AI, you know. So some of the teachers I know, like, you can say, well, they didn't use these essays. They were supposed to use these 2 articles, to write the essay, and AI didn't use those articles. So that's how we know that wasn't correct, you know, or something like that. But at the same time, you know, there's some things that get made up that aren't true. And so, and the kids just aren't aren't sophisticated or maybe don't care enough, some of the high school kids, to go back and fix that kind of stuff. They're like, this looks perfect to me.
Yep.
Right.
All the periods in the right place. The paragraphs are indented. So they're going to get caught probably if it's really blatantly wrong. But how long will that be before AI is so good at it that we're not going to be able to tell? And that's what I don't know. So
yeah, that the other confronting possibility is that we're already, even if it's not AI driven, but seems to be 80% AI, maybe we're already 80% machine and only 20% human left.
I'll take it. I'll take it. I don't want to age anymore. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we've got 5 minutes left to the top of the next hour. We had technology and tooling, which we kind of covered a little bit here, and then evidence of growth over time that I think is really the interesting one. It's like, yes, you can use standards and metrics like this, but I want to inject the idea that if we're envisioning kind of, okay, what's the future of education we're moving into, and that that other than these really bad bills that we have in California right now, that the general direction is towards more competition and towards more choice, that we start to include more metrics of like health, wealth, and relationships versus just these academic standards sort of as zombie standards all by themselves, not connected to the rest of how is this human being actually doing in their lives. Cool. Well, to wrap it out here, I always like to know, we've had people coming back, we've had people coming for the first time for this. What else can this mastermind group be doing, or what other resources can we be building that will make it just incredibly valuable, no-brainer thing to stay involved as we go forward here? And and that could also be what other topics are really important to you in your school that we can cover in our months to come here.
I would love to see some type of shared space, because I think I missed last month, but the month before, and was meeting with different people. But we're all having, and all the people that I've been talking to outside of this, my peers and stuff. When I ask, what's your school district doing, and I get a lot of, we're trying to figure it out. So I would love to see some type of shared space where we can share those ideas and share with one another what our districts are doing when it comes to policy and procedure. As because maybe in the next few months over summer, Sean and her district figure something great out, the way that they're using AI. And I'd love to see that as a shared, so the rest of us who are kind of drowning and trying to figure it out can catch the lifeline.
Yeah. Would that be like a Facebook group, a Discord channel, something like that?
Yeah, it could be just somewhere where messages and files can be shared, and just information and ideas being able to be shared amongst a group, so that we can all glean from each other and hopefully come to the best thing that'll work for our district.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll get some ideas drafted and get something going around that. The other one that we have on our to-do list is to take the EdTech Index, which is as far as I can tell at a glance, sort of aggregate directory of all sorts of EdTech software. And I want to experiment with just building an AI trained chatbot on top of that, so that people can simply just type in like, hey, here's the business problem we're wrestling with right now. Which software or whatever is designed to help address this.
I like that.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else?
I think I would I'm thinking about my staff and their summer. It's coming up 5 more weeks. I would love an AI generated roadmap to teaching teachers how to not use it, but to conquer the fear and try something safe.
So what Erin was talking about, how to actually create exposure to AI,
yes,
group training. So a little more kind of AI culture.
Yes, and with with the training wheels, we're going to need the training wheels. Like Erin was saying, one more thing, they're going to be completely off balance. So if something starts slow, here's this little morsel, this software that can help you do X, Y, Z. Take care of some of your C business, right? They would love that. And I think it would take some of that angst out of their day-to-day so they can focus on building authentic relationships with kids. I would love that.
Great idea. Excellent. And very on point with what we were talking about. That's great. Yeah. Karen or Eamon, any other thoughts or ideas to contribute to that before we close this session out?
Well, I would actually, I align with Erin as far as, whether it's, a forum or just, some sort of community or group would be great.
And that would be great. And because I think, that's where we're going to go and find out whatever other people are doing. And I think that's going to be super helpful down the road. But, I'm still have a lot of questions about, we started this off as like, well, if you could envision, your school teaching differently with AI or something like that, well, it's not that we can't, but right now we have the structure that we're in. And what do we do now? Like, there's how do we take what we're doing now and maybe transition to something later? Yeah. But
without becoming a private
right now,
school,
we got to deal with what we're dealing with now.
Within the liberties and constraints you're afforded as a charter school, right? Yeah, I think that's a really good topic. Maybe that's even kind of at the centerpiece of what we get into next month, because I have that, and then I had pending kind of similar, Sean, to what you're pointing towards, and Erin and Eamon as well, of what are our kind of top low-hanging fruit AI tools, strategies, and tips on the admin side to get adoption over there, and the biggest productivity gains or and so on. Okay. Very good. Excellent. Well, thank you everybody for making it this month. I'll get this recording available and tee up a topic for next month, and then take some action on these other recommendations. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.